Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Quick bit of information for you before we get into the main part of this video, and that'll be EGR cleaning. Main bit of information you need to know is I don't actually do EGR cleaning anymore, right? Sick and tired of it. So here's the video. There's other videos. We've had it in the VIP group for years. Obviously VIPs get things first. So all your injector, water pump, time belt replacement videos are all in there if you need that. But we're slowly bringing it all out onto YouTube. You know, you've got hundreds of thousands of hours of free information on how to do things, and we're just going to keep adding to that. But we just want to have something special for the VIPs. So that's where all the bigger jobs are there at the moment. But this is a 2007 Hilux, and we're going to do an EGR clean. So that's going to include removing the intercooler and the related components, the elbow, whatever, and having a look to see if it's worth cleaning the inlet manifold, how bad it is or isn't, because it's really important to define, you know, do you need to do that, whether you need to do things or not. Well, you don't really need to do anything, but if you don't do something, quite often at a later date you'll have some issues, contributing factors, possibly some catastrophic failure or major repairs. So some things are good to do, each to their own what they want to do. You know, whether you've got a catch can or a plate. We don't really talk about, you know, the legalities of which one does and doesn't work and which one's legal or not. We just tell you from our experience what we see on vehicles, what works and what doesn't work, you know. So we do see a lot of these, so got a fair bit of idea what works and what doesn't. So we're going to get into it slowly, and I think we've already got a video on removing the intercooler, but what we'll do, we'll go ahead and remove the intercooler first and just have it as part of this video. Now, it is a 12-year-old vehicle. These wires, they're really stiff, right? So obviously, same with the plugs, the plastics, they get a bit hard. You've got to press the clip enough to release it and then wiggle it. It's quite easy, obviously. I've done a few, so might make it, some people say, I reckon I'll make it look hard, because whenever I do a video, that's when things don't go to plan. Well, I shouldn't say always, but look, like this one here, they're a bit older. You need to press it enough to release it, and it just comes off. Press it too hard, you might break it. This brown one at the side here can be a bit of a pain, but two hands, one to press the clip, and the other one, see that one's, it's been a bit of a pain at the moment. The other thing you can do is just get something like this, and just get it in underneath the clip there to hold the clip up, rather than have to press so hard with your finger, because look, it's leaves an indent on your thumb. So I'm going to do it anyway. And usually what stops the plugs from coming off, that one doesn't want to come off. Usually what stops it coming off is it's either you haven't pressed it hard enough to release it yet, right? And sometimes you've got to press it and pull it on before you push it off. Sometimes they're just stuck. So pressing, pull on, push off, doesn't want to happen. So what I'm going to do, exactly, perfect example. I could probably press it a bit harder and get it off, of course, but we've got to base it on averages. So I'm going to use my little pick thing, right? And I can see in there, because I've got some light, I've got that ARB adventure light hanging up on the bonnet there. You can't see it, it's damn beautiful, love it. Nice and compact out of the way, and good bright light, and let's see how long it lasts for. It's not fully charged, but let's just see how it goes. So I'm going to use that little pick there to just get under the little tab and lift it up. And once that's lifted up, then one would think that there's nothing else holding it. Right, so that's clear, and then use the other hand to pull on it. Still doesn't want to move. So it wasn't an issue of having that pressed correctly. It's off now, right? So it just came off. It was just a little bit stuck for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we've undone those clips now. Now the wiring loom, as much as, look, you can leave things in the way, but it's just easier to get it out the way. So once you've undone those plugs to those brown ones, we'll just leave that wiring loom sitting there for now. Let's remove the map filter and the map line. So some people still don't know what the map filter is. That's because they don't watch videos. They start watching and they stop too soon and they miss out on all the information. Then they end up asking questions around the place, and you just go, you know, you're watching the videos or not, you know, because it's all there, right? So we've taken off the vacuum line, popped the clip out, popped the filter out of the little cradle there, and then I use this heater hose removing tool, the Snap-on Blue Point, whatever brand thing I've had for over 20 years. I think I purchased that when I was a first year apprentice at a dealership when I used to get a Snap-on truck. Anyway, we haven't seen one of them for a long time. So the map filter and vacuum line's off, that's out of the way. Next thing is we're going to undo these two clamps, the 4 bolts, right, and the clamp around the other side. We're going to do things a bit quicker, so we're going to use some tools to make things happen fairly quick. So that hopefully, look, part of this video we'll do the time lapse thing. Obviously we already removed the cover off the intercooler. There's a cover that goes over the top that's got a combination of 5 nuts or bolts, you know, here at the other side at the back, there and there. Just make sure these nuts don't fall out when you got the intercooler off. They don't usually fall out, but just, you know, as the vehicles are older and if people have worked on them, then sometimes. Now when they don't come out, you can pull and yank and whatever, it'll probably come off, but I'll just show you what's holding it on. You just need to get under the washer with a flat blade. Crack that washer loose, it's just the washer was stuck to the rubber a little bit, right? Just show you the easy way to do things, you know. Well, like I say, I could be wrong, but with the Hilux, we just sit all the nuts and bolts, well, not all of them, generally most of them, up along that tray along the bottom of the windscreen, the shroud at the bottom there. So now we've just got to grab a 1/4 drive ratchet with a short extension and a 10mm on it. And normally it's fairly easy to get down to this clamp on the intercooler pipe. We're just undoing the top clamp. This one's a bit harder because crazy man here has decided to install a catch can. Catch can, there it is, catch can. Anyway, so we just need to get that clamp at the top of the intercooler undone enough to be able to slip the intercooler off. And so just turning that clamp by hand with the head of the ratchet. Oh. Then I bumped it back to tighten. That didn't work out, did it? Yeah, this one's a bit weird, the way the catch can, it's on a dodgy angle and there's a couple of bends in the hose, and at least if you're going to do one, you know, you'd have a straight bit of hose and, I don't know, just don't do it, it's probably the best option. Save your money. Leave the oil in the intake, there's only a small amount there. At least it's going to catch any amount of soot that's still going through and keep it from going through your engine. Minimise it. The soot is the problem. So once you've done that, generally you can just grab the front of the intercooler here, not by the plugs or the sensors, right? And just give it a bit of a, oh, something went to plan in a video for once, showing how easy it is, you know. A bit of a twisty twist while you're gently pulling upwards. Bada boom, bada bing. Hope someone had a giggle. We've sort of moved on a little bit from happy days to bada boom, bada bing, but we might go back to happy days again, or whatever's coming next, eh? Right, so let's get a rag, a nice clean, fluff-free, dirt-free rag, and cover the turbo temporarily, just so nothing falls down in there, no dirt and debris and whatever, right? Now, I know a lot of you know how to do this and you've already done it and whatever, and you're better than me, that's all good, that's fine. I'm just showing the people that don't know, okay? So, I like to just give this a bit of a wipe here. Now, if the catch can works, why is there the same amount of oil there as what there would be without a catch can, okay? If the catch can work. So look, you know, often they don't work anyway. Now this is going to be a good one. This was clean. I think, was this clean? I think it was clean. I'm not sure. I reckon it was clean. But I did the injectors and clean on it, if that's what happened. I'll have to look it up. It was back in 2015 or somewhere around there? 16, 17, I don't know. Whenever. Anyway, so there's no plate in there, obviously, because we don't install plates. It's, you know, that's the DIY thing. You need to do that yourself. So this has got a catch can, not a plate. And now we're disassembling it again. So we'll undo that plug at the side there for the sensor. Now we're doing an EGR clean, but there's a wiring loom in the back of where the heater hose comes around here and goes around the back, and a couple of bolts we need to unbolt. But to get to the bolts, well, you can leave the wiring loom there. I'm not going to say you've got to unbolt it. What I normally would do is remove this whole wire. It's not that hard. It's only going to take a few minutes to remove that whole wiring loom back out of the way. But I'm sort of thinking I might not do that. Oh, but then it's harder to get to these nuts. Yeah, no, we'll just do what we normally do. I was going to change it up a bit, but let's not. So basically, starting from over this side, you can't quite see in the picture, but you know what I'm talking about. We're going to undo the MAF sensor. So again, gently press the clip. Then there's the white clip that goes into the airbox on a Hilux, which a lot of people have trouble getting out and they just pull them out and butcher them, but the good old heater hose tool thing generally gets in there and releases the clips that we need to release and gets it out without busting it. There's another one of those ones to slip off. You got the compressor plug. Again, press the clip, pull the wire off. These black ones, you just lift that little tab there up and they slip off. Coolant temperature sensor on the front of the head there, when you get your hand around it the right way. Got to find the clip first. Where is it? Around there. Okay. See, things are in the way. Alright, it's easy. Alright, so that whole wiring loom from the front's undone. And I find it easy to be on the passenger side. Easier. These normally come undone. Sometimes they can be a bit stuck as well. It all comes down to the dirt and the mud and everything. So there's one. I'm just using a rag so it's a bit softer on the fingers, because, you know, the whole pressing against the hard plastic thing one after the other gets a bit painful. So just use the rag to soften it up a little bit. Alright, so they're all unplugged. Now we've got two 10mm in the valve cover, so let's zip those out. And then we've got a couple of clips. So, like I said, see, it only takes a couple of minutes to get things right out of the way. And I'm going to say it, the Hilux is probably the easiest one. This one is going to be one of the quickest EGR cleans, and it would be quick for injectors as well, simply because it hasn't got a bull bar. It's got a little nudge bar and a light bar. Hasn't got a bull bar, hasn't got a lift. I can, standing on the ground, reach over and reach into here, which is good. It makes things happen quicker and easier. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. Change your plans. I'll get the flat blade again. I'm going to take these top vacuum lines off here. So just get in and give it a bit of a twist while you give it a pull with one hand, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. Down the bottom, the pink and the yellow. Take note, the yellow goes to the top, right? Yellow and pink, they're off, okay? Then, so we've disconnected 4 vacuum lines there. I'd suggest a 3/8 drive ratchet and a 13mm ratchet. We've got to take this plate off the side here, okay? Why did I say 13mm? They're not 13. What am I thinking? I know they're 12. I don't know. You get those. 13 used to be a popular size, but on these vehicles, nothing's really 13. It's all like 12, 10, 12s mainly. Right, so 1, 2, and 1 down the bottom. Look, if your fuel filter's in the way, you can just, let's just do that, right? So I don't know if you can see in the picture, but the fuel filter, I'm going to undo one plug, I'll undo the other plug. There's 2 plugs, 1, 2, and then you can just gently slip that up out of the bracket a little bit, right? And just relocate it, you know, a bit further back out of the way if that's what you want to do, right? Wasn't very much in the way, but now it's just giving us a bit more room. So we can get into this bottom bolt a bit easier. Right, see I'm nearly hitting my hand on that. That's because I didn't take the next thing off. So in the right order, because we're doing a video, and that's how we do it when we're doing a video. Right. So let's, again, we're going to do this, try and do it quick. Let's see if it works out. Try and zip these off. Let's get the throttle body assembly off first. Right. It's going to be a little bit too tight for that one, so go back to the hand tools. Let's get the throttle body off first, and then we're going to get the zip it off fast tool back again. If yours are really tight, you may need to use a longer bar, 1/2 inch drive ratchet or small breaker bar. They can be tight sometimes. These ones not too bad, just nice and tight. Okay, those nuts and bolts, 2 nuts, 2 bolts, and this throttle body assembly, which I've explained in videos. The prime reason that's there is for 2 reasons. To make the EGR system flow, this closes and creates a restriction while the EGR valve opens. The other reason is for a smooth shutdown, and we've worked out we don't need that. Now that's your catch can efforts for you and whatever anyway. It's filthy black thing. Plenty of oil in there too. We'll get to that. More information coming as we get into the job. So now we've given ourselves a bit more room. Let's reobtain the 3/8 drive, and I use a deep reach. Just gives, it's like an extension, just, you know, steps it out a little bit, otherwise it would be in there. Don't hit your knuckles on there because that's your next typical. So now we can miss that, but that one was my kind of tight. So we're going to take these 3 bolts out the side here. So this is a perfect one that, you know, you can watch now and then you might just get the job. And if you don't, you just play it again when you're doing the job, and you hit pause step by step. You know, step by step, play, pause, rewind, play, pause, and all that, you know. Another little tip, the more videos you watch and the more ads you watch, the more money I should make. And the more money I make from a YouTube channel, that means the more videos I make. And the more videos I make means more information for you. So it's win-win all round, right? So that assembly comes off, right? You had your 2 vacuum lines at the bottom, pink and yellow, they're marked on the vacuum line. And these 2, they're just gonna sit how they sit. You can't really get them mixed up left and right at the top there, and 3 bolts. We'll just go put those aside. If you like, put all your bolts with the parts they came up with. That's why you don't get things confused. Alright, so now things are starting to open up a bit. And we can see what's going on. Okay, and I'll give you a few injector replacement tech tips as well in this one. But I'd highly recommend, look, the reason people buy injector kits off us is so you get the whole lot. There's over 20 components included in the kit. You get the backup service. From the pricing I've seen, it's cheaper than everyone else. I had a Google this morning, and you know, who was it? Today's pricing. So current at time of publication, all 4x4 injector kit, whatever, $2,990. We're hundreds of dollars cheaper than that. We've got more stuff in the kit, and you don't get DIY videos that go for hours, and the backup service you'll get from us. So it's up to you though. I'm easy. Whatever you want to do, awesome. Whatever makes you happy. Don't drop the socket down there like what I did there. Lucky it went in a good spot. Hopefully we'll get that one out. Right, got that. Got that back. Now we need to get that heater hose tool thingy to release some clips. Now we've got a couple of clips. One, you can't see it. It's directly behind the EGR valve. It's quite fiddly to get to release the clip. So maybe I'll struggle a bit. We'll see what happens. Toyota did work on this once though, actually. since I did the injectors. That's another story. Yeah, one side of the clip's broken, but that's okay. It won't be an issue, so I'm guessing the other one will probably come out easy too. Not yet, I don't think. So we'll release one side. So there's a clip behind, you know, the typical clips, they got a little tang either side, so I try and get in and release one side and then the other. Doesn't always work out as easy as it sounds, but this one's a particularly hard one because you can't really see what you're doing. You're going by feel. We're not working in the dark. Okay, so let's try that. I'm going to just use my fingers. Oh yeah. Got a feeling one side of this might be broken off as well. If that's not what we do, let's have a look. No, they're both there actually, that's fine. So then what you can carefully do is just get the whole wiring loom. Just don't twist it or pull it any more than you need to. This is for your injectors or whatever as well. You can just slight twist around that way, bada boom, bada bing, there it is, out of the way, virtually no wiring loom. And you can do that on the Hilux. On a Prado, it's a lot harder because your wiring loom goes down to your alternator and your oil, your turbo and your oil level sensor and all sorts of gear down there. So, not all sorts, that's about it. Next step is we've got to take a bolt that's back here, facing the opposite way on an angle, which puts your ratchet up here against the firewall. Quite difficult to get to. Got to get that out. So first, take out the easy one, and that's the one that goes in the heater pipe up to the top, into the EGR valve, into the what we call the elbow. Alright, so we're just going to take another 12 mil. They're all pretty well 12 mils. All these, they're all 10s or 12s, mainly 12s. So basic tools, you know, quarter drive and 3/8 set would be what I'd be, you know, you can still use the 3/8 for the 12 mil stuff. The 10 mil stuff, Look, the other thing is quality tools. I mean, these are old and used. This Sid chrome ratchet's been going for over 2 decades. You know, the handle's missing, it's been used as a hammer and everything else. And this socket here, that's actually a KC Tools 12 mil. Right, so single hex, right, 6-point socket like that. Quality tools, and then you're not going to slip because a lot of these can be quite tight, and if you're using a 12-point socket, right, so you can just get in there to where you want to be, enough to get that loose. All right, and once you get it a couple of clicks on your ratchet, usually and hopefully, probably not this time because you know it's a video, you can just get your fingers in there and do it by hand, which in this case we can. So some people would try and make this sound hard. It's not hard. If you're not that good with the tool, you're going to have some difficulties. Some people are, you know, sort of more mechanically apt and can work with their hands. Some people can't. So, but now that heater pipe, it's free to move backwards. Normally, what I do is zip tie it back to the. Well, you've got. I'll tell you what you got here. You've got brake lines, and you've got your for your brake booster, right? So your brake booster, it's a bit different to your usual, like a petrol engine creates enough vacuum, the booster's connected to the inlet manifold. Diesels have less vacuum, some people will say none, but there is some vacuum there. But what they do, so they've got a separate pump, like for the brake booster, so you could call it the brake booster pump if you wanted, but the technical term is vacuum pump. So there's a mechanically driven vacuum pump bolted on the engine down there. That's what this pipe is here, right? So that's just got air in it. So if you're ever worried about that and you want to take it off, get out the way, replace it, you can do that. It's not full of fluid or anything, it's just air. But if you damage that, that's when you're going to have, you know, brakes not so good, because that's your brake booster. So we'll get a zip tie. Zip. We're going to get a really big fat one as we can, and just zip tie that back to those lines, just to help hold it out the way a little bit for us. And sometimes, depending how you zip tie it, it can be better or worse. And sometimes it's easy being able to move it around, but And obviously you cut that and you don't leave it like that, you cut it and you refit it all at the end, not like some workshops. You don't refit things, right? So we just want that zip tied back. We're just going to leave that there, we're not worried about neat and tidy. That just gives us, we still need to be able to move things around to get to the bolt there. So the next step in removing your EGR valve is undoing this bolt on the support clamp bracket thingy, whatever you want to call it, stay on the stay, the 12mm on the stay. Let's remove and get that out. Once we get this off, we'll tell you the next steps involved to replace your injectors. But if you want to see it, there's a lot of tips and tricks and things to avoid. Just remember with the injector replacement job, this one, oh, you know, you can muck it up and leave a bolt loose, you can take it apart and fix it up. No big deal, I suppose. But when it comes to the injectors, it's an even bigger job, and you don't want to, you want to get it right the first time. You want the right parts, you want new, fresh. You don't want, in my opinion, you don't want Remand or other brands or Chinese copies or counterfeit parts or anything like that. That's why people buy off us. We do it every day, sending in injector kits, brand new, genuine injectors. So, and you want to make sure, the point is, you want to make sure the whole job is done right too. And there's a lot of pitfalls and things you want to avoid, and that's what we cover in our videos. And even guys in the trade that have done, you know, half a dozen, a dozen of these, come back to me and say, hey, that was really helpful to be able to, you know, see all that information. Grabbing out a 10mm ratchet spanner. It's got a bit of a, angle on it, right? And there, what you really want to use to get into here, right? Underneath that EGR valve. Alright, so that one's cracked loose. Now I have to do it by hand job. Now, there's one around the other side here, and that's why I removed the wiring loom, because otherwise your hand, the wiring loom's right where you want to be. So sometimes, as I've explained in other videos, sometimes less is more, sometimes more is less. Okay, and what I mean is, you know, okay, Hilux timing belt is probably the easiest one to do while the fan and everything's there. The 150 Prado is a bit harder. Sometimes it's just easier to take more things out of the way to make it easier, and that's what, in this case, what happened. So we took the wiring loom out of the way. Let's just get in a bit closer so you can have a look and see what's going on. Okay, so in here, right, the thing you got to fight against is this here, right, and keeping your spanner straight as you can so the spanner doesn't slip. So you might want to come all the way back this way. If we can get another click on it, that'd be good. Get the spanner set up so it's nice and flush, get the pressure on. And just once you've moved it a little bit, you know, you can probably risk getting your angle up on the end of the bolt a bit. This could be a bad example, we'll see. I know it's going a little bit more first, so let's just do a few short strokes against that. And then, once it's fairly loose, let's go past it to the back. That's how we roll anyway, right? Now, pretty sure it's going to be, the reason this is going to be easy, sometimes they're hard to get these bolts in and out, perhaps when they haven't been done before, but if you align everything when you put it together, generally it'll go back together easy and it'll come back apart next time if there is a next time. But look, if you fix this properly, fix it properly, you know, in a perfect world there wouldn't be an EGR system that was unfiltered exhaust gases. There would be some sort of heat pump or you know, some sort of filter on it. Like a DPF is a really good idea if you use the vehicle to the conditions that are going to keep it working and reliable. And then if you take it to the next step, well, then you can have EGR, because there's your filter. You just take the exhaust gases from after the DPF, you know. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to think about that, do you? But you tell me why they still take dirty exhaust gases and put it back into your engine when they've got a filter there they could take it from afterwards. Anyway, I'm sure there's an answer. what would I know? Just slowly working on this bolt. It's a bit of a wiggle. If you have trouble getting it out, I can just tell you, or I can actually show you what I would do. But look, the next step would be what you would you just stop. If this was a real pain, it's getting to be a little bit painful. It's turning slowly. It's a bit of a wiggle and a turn. It's nearly there. I don't want to leave it because I feel like it's about to drop, but it's just about out. Don't drop it. There it is, right? We just sit that up on the tray up the top there. So, you know, people tell you it's hard. It's not too hard, but that's how hard it is. We just did it, right? So it's a matter of knowing. Look, it all comes down to confidence. When you haven't done it, it's all a bit nervous and hard and all that, and the first one maybe. But once you've done a few, piece of cake. Like everything on vehicles, really. Piece of cake. There's a few hard jobs, but don't be shy. And just think, if you don't trust yourself, you've got to be careful who you're going to trust to do the job. So I certainly can't do all of them. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And I can recommend other businesses in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Perth that I believe can do these jobs correctly, right? So the last step to getting the EGR valve elbow and EGR valve assembly off, we'll take it off as an assembly, is 3 bolts. Excuse me, probably need to have a drink. Okay, so we're going to grab, what are we going to do here to look least dodgy? Okay, I'm going to grab a longer extension. See, sometimes it's hard to remember between Hilux and Prado, because they're all a bit different. Which length extension works best? The shorter one works, but this one works better and it gets you right up here. Oh, nice and tight the way you want it. Okay, so we'll take that bolt right out, without dropping it. Just got to push that heater hose. There's a little bracket there that gets a little bit in the way, so. Alright, there's a 12mm. Now, I'll point something out here. The 3 that go into the manifold all look like that. The one that goes into there, it's a little bit longer. And you can see the shank on it, right? Take note, right? That one goes there. I'm not going to mix them up. You could put them in a bucket and shake them up. I'm doing it for you guys. So, hopefully I haven't missed anything. Oh, except for the video was a bit too zoomed in and you might not have seen that. I don't know if you did or not anyway, so we'll just back off a little bit. Obviously, got a few of these, so. What pays here is a wobble extension, right, so you can get a little bit of angle. Because they can be quite tight. They're meant to be, I think they're only meant to be, what are they? Can't remember, 20 Newton meters? Or it's been a long time since I read that one. About 20 Newton meters, 25 maybe. So I don't, it doesn't matter. A lot of bolts, when you do them up to whatever they are, they feel like 80 Newton meters when they come undone. So those 2 bolts are out. Bada boom, 33 minutes to get the EGR elbow off with chit chat. Right, yeah, this is what I want to show you, right? Can't see anything, it's dark in there, isn't it? Well, I can see. I'm going to go and put this on the bench. At the end of the day, we're going to stop the video now and rejoin for reassembly. But before we do, I'll just show you a few things with this intake, and hopefully you'll be more informed to make a decision whether you want to clean it, whether you want to add a catch can, whether you want to, you know, put a plate with a 7mm hole, or whether you're going to get an ECU tune and a remap and sort of switch off your EGR valve. Doesn't bother me what you do. I just provide the information on what we see basically working on these vehicles all the time. Right guys, so we'll go over and have a look at the manifold and the EGR valve, and then we'll get it all cleaned up and we'll do a video getting it back together. Okie dokes. So let's have a look in the main, in the EGR valve. Yeah, it kind of looks typical, you know. Right, caked in mess, EGR valve jamming, not working right. This is why you can't just put a plate in or something without cleaning it, because if it's not working right, these generally just fall off as well. So, you know, you can replace that. We supply all these gaskets in the kit if you're doing an EGR clean and that. It's part of the stuff we include in our kits. Comprehensive, the whole lot, you know. Everything you need, and if it doesn't, well then we'll let us know and we'll change it. We'll add it in there. Whatever you want, we're listening. So that's what that looks like. I think that's done about 80,000 Ks since it was clean. I'm not sure how long the catch can's been there, so, but anyway, it's there. Let's go have a look in the manifold, see what that looks like. Okay, so, right, hard for you to kind of see exactly what's going on, but you probably can't quite see what let me see if I can see first, to give you a judgment. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, now that I've had a CC, no, not a Canadian club. If you look down a number 4 port there, you can see it's a rectangle, it's still clean and clear. There's a build up, there's some little knobby bits that are sort of about 1 to 2 millimeters high, that wouldn't take much to clean off. And the worst of it, and this isn't a bad one, but the worst of it is right at the start, because as the soot and everything goes around the corners, that's where it builds up, right? That's what hits the EGR valve, that's where it all comes in. It goes onto the elbow as it goes around that first bend and the second bend and down into the manifold. So quite often you can look here and go, oh no. But quite often, usually this is the worst of it. So this manifold won't be coming off. It's not worth the amount of work involved. It's just really going to be a clean and vac that out. If you knew the shape of the manifold like I do and whatever, you'd probably get a better idea. So hopefully this is helping you, you know, decide and work out, you know, which ones are not worth doing. Trying to get the light down there in the camera, you know, so that you can see. Sorry, I bumped the wrong button on the phone, but you get that. The point I'm trying to make is, hopefully you can see that port and go, yeah. But if you look at that port and it's all caked and it's round and not rectangular, then it's not so good. If it's got 5 mil thick either side or whatever, that's when you might want to consider cleaning your manifold. But I'll also tell you that quite often, the worst of it is there and in that port, and as you go down, it gets better, okay? So anyway guys, we're going to get it all cleaned up nice and schmick, and we'll get it back together. Alright, we'll just go briefly into cleaning. A lot of people in the trade and whatever are just going to send this stuff away, these parts, but a lot of DIYs and guys at home are going to clean it. So once you've got the assembly there, take these 3 12mm nuts, remove those, put those aside for putting the assembly back together loosely. Right, you can have another look at what's going on in there now. Right, so quite often the worst of it's this side, and by the time you get to the other side it's better, and that may be better, but not much. See how there's more up there? You can't really see much because it's so dark, right? But you get that. If you want to see it, pull yours apart if you haven't done it yet. Give it a clean up. Alright. So this is bada boom, bada bing. Alright. That's where your clean air's going in. And just behind here, that's where your EGR valve was. So of course that's where it's quite, when we say clean the EGR valve, that's what we're talking about. You can see there you've got up to about close to 10 mil build up there. And your EGR valve itself. Quite often they're a lot worse than that. You've seen other videos and photos. If you haven't, go and have a look. This is why you keep your dirtiest old dirty rags covered in grease, because they can catch and absorb all this garbage. The first step really is scrape it off. So I'm not going to go too long about this, but just get your components. I start with the cleanest one first generally, and it gets quite messy. So normally what I used to have set up was what I call a soot box, because it catches it all. Now a lot of this is dry and powdery, and that's because the catch can's there, it takes some of the oil out. So this dry abrasive soot, this is just the amount that's been caught, right? You're kind of better off getting it caught in a manifold if you're going to have it, because and this one, they vary how hard they are to clean. This one, see, it's all powdery. That's what's going through your engine. It's kind of, as in other videos when I say you may as well just clean the oil out of a K&N filter and let the dust through. Well, what's the difference between that and dust? Tell you what, this is dry and abrasive, man. It's worse than dust. But anyway, it shows how tough these engines are. But imagine how good they'd be. Just imagine how good they'd be if they didn't have to deal with EGR. Now, we all understand why EGR's there. And it's good to think about the health of us and everything like that. There's all these things. There's a can of worms, really, you know, like, you know, hang on, we need to have EGR, but the supermarket shelves are allowed to be full of high sugar foods, you know, like the whole lolly aisle. Hang on, we've got to have, drugs are illegal, alcohol you've got to be over 18, but there it is, eat your heart out on the sugar, right? So anyway, you get where I'm headed, you know, you can have that, but you got to have this? No. Well, if you can have sugar in the shopping supermarket aisle, then you can not have this, right? Because it's all about the same. It's all really bad for you, right? Now, we're not going to be perfect or anything, but that's my understanding, you know. It's kind of, you know, hypocrites, you know what I mean? So anyone that understands this system in its entirety and how bad it is and the damage it will do to the engine, so because it's dry, quite easy to scrape out, right? That was actually good. That was almost enjoyable. No, not quite, but look, let's keep going, because some people are still watching. Some people lost interest, and the ones that are watching, they're going to get the information at the end and see about putting it all back together and whatever as well, right? So, right. See that's the bit with oil in it still, right? That's what you want, because it's stuck here's better than it's gone through your engine. So what you got with a catch can is it all just goes through the engine anyway. Might look good that it's not here, but it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped any of this soot. The catch can stops the oil, not the dry abrasive exhaust gases. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. So it doesn't matter if you've got what diesel engine you got. If it's got EGR, this is probably most likely what you're looking like, you know. You know, the Mitsubishis are quite bad. You know, the 200 series cruiser and everything, yeah, you know, same, different solutions for a similar problem, if you know what I mean. So what we do, we just mainly scrape most of that out, right? Again, that one's fairly good. Hey, you could put it back together and chuck it together like that if you like. That's fine, you know. I mean, what's the point of, you know, polishing it up spotlessly clean unless you're going to keep it like that? And even a bit of oil, you're going to have discolouring, right? So there's the EGR valve, right? Just gently trying to, because we're not doing the box thing, because in the box you don't get to see. You've probably seen, I did other videos, you know, I had put less time into it. We're building it up slowly. As I said, the more videos you watch, the more time you spend, some more ads and click here and click there. If we can get a payday from a YouTube channel, then more videos, right? More videos. At the moment, it's just videos for you, right? But if it becomes worthwhile, then we'll be doing everything. It'll be full time, just showing you everything on motor vehicles, right? We'll get all sorts of cars in there. That's why I asked the other day on the other video. There was one video I said, tell me what you want to see. What do you want to know? What do you want to see? I don't know everything, but I reckon we can cover most things. And if there's something that I don't know, well, I can get to know more about it. I've got some contacts, I can talk to some people, find out more about things, and hopefully get the information out for you. But this is just the EGR valve in the elbow, you know. This is not much. You've seen here. I'll put photos up. Let me get these red lids, these degreaser can lids, right? You know, I've put photos up with 3 of those full and overflowing just from this same area we've cleaned out here. So this one's been cleaned before and it's got a catch can now, so it is better than the average bed. But what I'm trying to point out is the catch can is just allowing all this. It's not sticking, right? It hasn't got the oil, mate. It's not gooey like toothpaste. When you've got the oil, right, it sticks it all. It sticks it all into your onto your components, right? The reason we do this, we just want to keep our cleaning solutions as clean as possible and get most of this out. So I'm going to spend a bit of time, and of course under here as well, the EGR valve where it lifts up, we need to make sure that's clean, clear, working, not sticking and all that. So just scrape it all out. I'm not really too fussed about surface scratches on anything or whatever, right? I just want to get that sort out. So you can see that's mainly clear. Like I said, you could put that back together, you could bolt it all together again. And we're going to do the same at the inlet manifold. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go and finish cleaning all this up, and I'll come back to you when we're bolting it back together with a few tips of how tight to do up the bolts so that everything aligns properly and all that. So sit tight, not for long. Okay, so there's a few different systems here depending on the consistency of the muck you've got to clean out. As we said with this one, it's only limited to the start of the manifold there. It's been very dry and powdery. So what we want to do is scrape and vac, scrape and vac. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration of what we do when it's like this. Now obviously if it's all wet and gooey, you need to use rags and just get in there and wipe it and pull it out. It all varies, but with this one, this is the deal. So we're going to make a bit of noise with the vacuum and just give you a demonstration. So you're probably thinking, oh yeah, what did that do? What's that like? Let's go and have a look. Okay, compared to before, we just scraped off. You can see there's not much. You can see back to the surface of the manifold. We only spent the time what we did in the video. I don't care about the scratches in there with a screw. It's just a bit of alloy, whatever, right? The point is there's a bit more to scrape, but I don't know how well you can see, but there's nothing that thick or nasty that you would bother pulling this manifold off to clean it. If you wanted to clean it and the ports and everything going through the back of the valves, then once you've done this, you could then use those intake cleaners, right? Now, I don't know how well they're going to work or not, but I'm sure they will go through the areas and clean the same parts where the air would flow through, if you know what I mean. So that's what it looks like now. You can see the shape of the manifold and whatever in, what was that, 1 minute or so cleaning. But we're going to give it a bit more, work around a little bit, and then of course we'll put our fingers in and reach forward, make sure there's no build up forward of the manifold, sort of up towards this area forwards a bit. Have a look down towards number 4 port. We can scrape around that a bit more if we need to, and we'll get some degreaser in there and clean that up so it looks nice as well. That's what we're going to be doing now, guys. We're going to be using degreaser now to clean up, scrape that a bit more, both the components we showed you before, the EGR valve and this manifold, clean it all up and we'll get it ready to get back together. Alright, so with cleaning this throttle body, that's what it is. It's a bit different to the other components. So we're going to scrape this goo off it, like so, and excuse me. What we're going to do, scrape that all clean, and we're going to clean that with, not degreaser, we're going to clean it with the right product. Throttle body carby cleaner, right? So you'll need a toothbrush or some similar brush and some of that, and give that a good clean. Try and keep it away from the electrical components. So I'll be spraying it here, spraying here, and then I'll do the same from, that's the cleaner side, but I'll do both sides anyway. We're going to get it all back to scratch, and hopefully it might stay Mickey Mouse clean. Alright guys, going to do some cleaning. Okay, so we've got it all cleaned up. I'll give you an idea of the level of clean, okay? It doesn't really matter if you've got some black staining left inside, you know, on the side there or whatever, you know. It doesn't really matter. I mean, what we use, so there's a speck there, we'll just scrape that off, bit of gasket, okay? That's the one that goes to the bottom, and that's why I'll give you some information on which gaskets you need to replace as well. So look, fairly clean. Same with that. We want that all operating, you know, like a new one as per normal. You know, a few specks of black here and there is all right, but you know, whatever. That the main thing is the throttle body here. It's going to have staining and that you can get it off if you spend enough time, but how much time do you spend? Look, that's 99.9% better, and it's fine. It's just going to have a bit of oil and that on it anyway. We've got the old gaskets over here, we'll just get rid of those. So we've got all new gaskets here. These do come with our injector kit if you ask for them, because you're doing this at the same time. If you've already done this and you're just doing injectors, then obviously that's where there's a few variables in the kit. So basically what I want to tell you about the gaskets is, if you want to just do this and you want to be cheap, you can reuse some of these gaskets. So here we go with the ones that you can reuse. This one you can normally reuse. They're like a stainless gasket with a rubber sort of coating over the top. They normally don't deteriorate too badly. That goes in there. Those two you can reuse each side of the EGR valve. Never ever seen one that I've had a problem with or a leak with. These are usually okay to reuse. This goes on the bottom of the EGR valve, okay? Sometimes the coating flakes off, but rarely, so usually you can reuse that. These ones at the back here, the coating regularly flakes off, so I should show you the old one. Let's do that. Let's get the old one. So perfect example from what I just said. Here you go. There's the old one. See, the coating's still there. You could reuse that. That's the one of the EGR valves like that one. Bit of oil and dirt. You just clean them, put them back exactly how they were before. You could, so it's kind of a bit of a waste, because these are like, I don't know, $8 each or something. Same with that one. Nothing wrong with that, right? That's why I say those you can reuse. These ones, this isn't an example of one that's really bad, but see how that coating's flaking off and around here, and see how there's a crack and it's peeling back there and over here, and sometimes it's worse on the other side. Anyway, that's the worst one, and that's the hardest one to get to. It's down at the bottom where it joins in the manifold. 100% you want to replace that, in my opinion. All you're going to have if it leaks is a weep of oil. It's going to be untidy, right? So that's all you're going to have. It's not the end of the world. It's not like you're going to have some massive leak. It's generally just going to be that bit of oil, but we're just going to use all new gaskets. Just a reminder, we don't do this. We're just doing this for the video to help one of the locals out. So we're doing that. So the next steps are as follows, right? So once you've got it all clean and you're happy, I actually like to have a clean rag on hand, so I'm going to grab that and just give everything a bit of a wipe as you go. So these bolts, the threads, the shafts and that, yeah, it's all good, and just have a look. So one of the gaskets, these can go either way, right, as long as you've got the right ones. You'll see in our kit, there's two of these and they look identically the same. This one's different, it's got a little tab on it, the one that goes on the manifold, between the manifold and the elbow. Extra EGR valve goes on, then another gasket, like I said, either way. If you're reusing them, I like to keep the gaskets in order and put them back exactly how they were. So everyone's different. Some people want to save that extra few bucks on the gaskets. If you can reuse them, that's fine, doesn't bother me. I'm happy either way. If I see a gasket that's not good, that's flaking, then they're the ones we're going to replace, or at your, obviously if we're doing an injector job or whatever, then we're going to replace them. Alright, so just get those three nuts on. The important information is, don't do them up yet. Okay, so don't tighten them up. Even if I can get it started would be good, right? So finger tight, just like that. They're not going to go anywhere at the moment, but just remember they are only that way. When you bolt this down, right, and then you do up this clamp bolt here, they're locked in position, right? But they may be different, so you need to have that movement, obviously, between that bracket and there. So that's why you leave those loose, bolt this down, and then you can still move that to put this bolt in, and then do not forget to do those up last. Okay, now don't forget this one underneath, right? So that gasket, it just clips on like that, right? Make sure it doesn't fall off. Sometimes I'll just rebend the tabs a little bit so they stay there. This is going to wait till the rest of it's back on, so we'll just leave that sitting there. We're going to go and place this on the manifold now, bada boom, bada bing. Right, the way it sits, and then we're going to put that assembly back on the same way it came off, more or less. Okie doke, so we've given it all a pretty awesome clean up. That gasket sitting in place. If you like, you can put some grease on the threads and whatever. Grease or whatever you want to use, any sort of, look, these bolts generally don't have issues with them, but I do like to put look, some people use copperies or, you know, never sees or whatever you like. I've got that, but I'm just happy with a bit of grease, so that's what I do. So you reckon the air in the intake's going to flow a little bit better? Maybe. Right, so we've got that started. Remember what I said about the wobble extensions? So they're a different kind of setup like that, and it just allows, you can lock it so it doesn't wobble, or you just pull it off a click, then it wobbles around. It gives you that little bit of angle that you kind of need to be able to get in there and easily get that started. All bolts finger tight only until we get them all started, right? So now we're going to take that off, hopefully. I'll just lay that there so I can reach it for the other side. Take our tub of grease over there. You could just take all your bolts to the bench and do the grease thing, but I didn't prepare, you know, I did all this, you know, trying to prepare stuff to make the video shorter and quicker, but it just doesn't always work out, does it? As I said, videos. So there's one with a bit of grease on it. It just helps, you know, a bit of lubrication helps, you know. Sometimes they can get corrosion on them, you know, just from washing engines down if you don't blow it dry and drive it afterwards. That's what I prefer to do. If you wash an engine down, you do it not running, as you should have seen in our other videos. You don't want to work the water into bearings and stuff like that. So I prefer to do it not running, but then blow it dry. If possible, leave it in the sun with the bonnet open, and if possible, drive the vehicle, you know, sooner rather than later, and that'll get some heat through the whole engine bay and help evaporate and finish drying it off. So I'm going to kind of break my own rule. That's why it's important to watch. Actually, no, I'm not. I was going to tighten up those 3 bolts, but we'll put a bit of grease on this third one that goes in the stay on at the front here and show you. Oh, let's see if it works out. Usually how easy it is. Usually, use the keyword usually. How easy it is to get that bolt started when the rest of it's still loose, you know what I mean? So you can wobble it around, because A, the bolts are finger tight down there, and they're also only finger tight here, right? So, because this one traditionally could be quite hard to get started. I guarantee you there's some people watching this going, I've already done that, and they're going, oh, geez, yeah, I should have done that. And that's the whole point. Get the information, then do the job, rather than the other way around. Now what we can do is we can tighten that up. So grab the ratchet. Where did I drop that extension? Alright, so we'll just give this side a quick nip. Remember, it was about 20 Newton meters, yeah? For me, I just go by hand. I've been doing this for decades, you know, so it's like, I'm not going to get a torque wrench out on everything, I assure you. The important jobs, absolutely. So there are 23 Newton meters. Probably is. they're quite long threads too. You'd have to go pretty crazy to pull the thread out of the alloy and damage that, I think. Never seen one damaged. There's other areas we see damaged, particularly on the injector side of the job. And that's what I didn't do actually. I was going to tell you what further work's involved in, injector job once you're at this stage. So let's have a bit of a look. So if you had all that off doing your EGR clean, then there's kind of not a lot more to do. It's time consuming, there's checks, and it's got to be clean and precision, but there's not a lot more to do. So basically you need to remove, there's a stay here at the inlet manifold that holds the inlet manifold, it goes down to the block. This vacuum line off, the top bolt off, loosen the bottom bolt, the stay moves out of the way so you can get to the pipes at the common rail here with your extension, right, with your 7mm crow's foot, which is included for free in the injector kit, if you'd kindly return it to us when you're done. Undo these clamps here, those clamps, top nuts on the fuel lines off, bin them. Then obviously all your bolts, your valve cover off. Do not forget to take these seals out. They need to come out before you take the cover off. I would have thought that's fairly obvious, but not, because a few people have made that mistake. So don't feel, like you're the only idiot. It's happened to a few people. And some people even cut these seals, all sorts of things, when they get the alignment wrong. That's why I said watch the videos before you do the injector job. There's a lot of pitfalls. And then obviously it's all what's under the valve cover, the return line, the injectors. Like, that's all in other videos. I just wanted to point out, once you've got all this off, there's not a lot more to do other than the fuel lines and the few things you've got to take off to get to the fuel lines, to then get the valve cover off and do that job. So not a big deal, and the Hilux is one of the easiest ones to work on. So if you've got a Hilux, then look, I'm not trying to convince anyone to do their own injectors. It is really a specialist area, but there's not enough of those specialists out there that can do the job right. So we've just got to help you out where we can. So let's get back on this, bolting up this EGR valve again. So better get the 12mm. Tighten this one up. Okay, we did the other three, didn't we? So I always go double, triple check, and that way there's no mistakes. I don't know if we did the other three, because then I went, I've got to tell you about that. So, right, that one's done. I'm pretty sure we did the other two as well. I'm pretty sure. See, when you do a lot of repetitive stuff like this, it's easy to forget too. Was it the last car we did it up, or was it this one, Where if you work on a different car all the time, yeah, you'll remember whether you did it or not. So. Now we're going to grab a little 12mm. Remember, we said don't forget to tighten these up. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Get all those up nicely. The same deal, it's probably 20 Newton. You can look it up. I think in the VIP group we've got some torque spec sheets and that cover that. I've put up links, and other people have put up links to online manuals and stuff that have got all this sort of information. So it is there, one way or the other. The main thing is don't forget, because if you do, you'll lose your nuts. Diesel vibration. I think I forgot to do them up once. Didn't take me long to work it out. As soon as you start the engine, you hear the whistle, and but those nuts do vibrate off quite quickly. So just go from one side to the other and just do them up nice and evenly. So that's basically, there's your EGR intake assembly bolted back on. Now remember, we haven't done that underneath part yet, and some people are sitting back going, well, you're going to put an EGR plate in? Well, I'm not, but I think the owner might want to do that. I'm not sure, because you saw how dirty it was. It's got the catch can, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you, we're going to put one in for video purposes, so we're going to show you how to do that. Now I think we'll do that next, because this is the point you need to come to put a plate in. The plate goes in it. Let me just check where that video's at. Here we go, we'll just back it off a little bit. Okay, so the plate goes in at this end of the EGR cooler, right? Thousands of people have got this plate in. They've been doing it for years, and it definitely works. Like I've said, legalities, I don't know, I'm not the lawyer. It's different in each state. I've read it up. Kind of grey area, because you're not stopping the EGR system from working. It still works. Just reduces the flow. It's a flow reduction plate, which, you know, so that's up to you if you want to worry about that or not. I'm just telling you what works and what doesn't, and where it goes. So it goes here. It doesn't go up this end. It doesn't go anywhere else. It goes down this end between the head and the EGR cooler. To get it in there, you need to get the EGR cooler out and have enough gap to do that. And to do so, you need to have the mounting bolt here. Whatever you do, don't forget that mounting bolt. You can't see it, it's down behind these two coolant hoses, 12mm. Don't forget to put it back in and tighten it up. That's your biggest caution on this job, really. And you need to take these two bolts out at the other end of the EGR cooler so the whole thing can move around, which we've still got out. We haven't put those back in at the moment. So what we'll do now is, I think the customer said he had a plate in the car or something somewhere that he was going to put in. Hadn't got round to it yet. So we're going to show you. I'll get the right tools for the job. We're going to carefully remove the mounting bolt for the EGR cooler, which is kind of right there. Right, and after that comes out, I'll show you why. Look, I've never forgotten this bolt, because I heard of other people and vehicles that, you know, I could have forgotten it just like anyone else, but I'll tell you what, it's probably on the whole job, on the whole EGR cleaning job, it's definitely the most important bolt not to forget, because it could be costly. I've had vehicles come in, I've had people call up, I've read it online, where people have, in fact, forgotten to put that bolt back in. And see how the EGR cooler moves around like that now? Now, if you've only got it bolted at the back and the front there, you've got the diesel engine vibration wobbling side to side like that constantly. And where this pipe comes up to the bottom, it's just a small weld, it's thin material. That vibration will eventually cause it to crack next to the weld and tear that out. And if you can weld good and all that, good on you, you can weld it up, no problem. But it's just easier to not have to do that. These are, I think, $600, $700, $800, $900, depends what day and where you are. So be careful of that. Now, you need to get the plug off the common rail. So I'll try and get you in there and show you where that is. Okay, so the plug on the common rail at the front, pressure sensor is here, right? There's a black plug there. Now, I'm going to have to get in the way of things to undo that plug. I will see if I can do it from here like this. We'll see how it works out. So first you've got to find the tab which side it's on, and it's at the, for me it's at the bottom towards the tyre. I've pressed it in with my index finger, and with that and my thumb I'm trying to pull the plug back, and the plug has slipped back. Now these vary to how hard they are, like every vehicle, every plug, there's quite a lot of plugs that get stuck. So I removed the plug and just tucked that down out the way, so you can probably see the difference now. I don't know how much you can see, but I'll try to get the angle right there. Right, how's that with the light on the job? Right. Down here, right? So carefully remove that plug, don't bust it. You'll be in a world of pain and suffering again. So if it's not you, don't do this job. If you're worried about, you know, it's just a little tab. It's not, I've never broken one, but just being cautious, right? Always caution with these jobs. If you shouldn't be touching the car, don't touch the car. Now that we've got that plug off though, we need to grab a quarter drive, and a longer extension seems to work. So just try to find the one I want. And a 10mm. And we want to get in there and remove the two nuts from the pipe. See how tight they are? I think they're meant to be 13 Newton meters as well, but they just seem to be a lot tighter all the time. Now the hard part is getting that undone, and you obviously can't see what I'm doing. This is one of those things I can't really show you what I'm doing. You just have to figure it out, but hopefully you can see enough of what I'm doing to know the location of things and what we're talking about, and you get all the cautions that come with it, like don't drop that nut. So I'm angling that extension, that long extension down, the nut's off, and I'm going to bring it out like that. There's that nut, put that in a safe place. And we've got the other one to go. Where's the other one? Where do I just put that ratchet? Where did that little ratchet go? Someone saw where I put it, over here. And then of course same with the other bolt. And that's the problem with those ARB lights. They're nice and bright, those orange ones, but on full go, they last no more than 2 hours, maybe 2 hours when they're new. I think they're meant to last 4 hours on half, which makes sense. Geez, I've got some sharp zip ties down here. Why do people cut zip ties like knives? Like, you know, they got a big angle on it and it's just sticking out there trying to slice my wrists open. Okay, same deal. I want to try and get this one out without dropping it, so my finger's going in to grab that nut, and we've got it. So we've secured all the nuts that have come off, and now you'll be able to see the whole EGR cooler is just sitting. Now it is easier to do this with the fuel lines off, because you can see where it's hitting the fuel lines now. So that's the limit of how much room you've got to work with, right? But that's how you need to have it. If you want to put a plate in, that's where you need to get to that point. So it's like that, so you can then just angle that out. Now you're not going to see in full detail exactly what, where, how, why, where it's going in, but I'll try and show you, eh? Okay, so this is your EGR plate with a 7mm hole. Bada boom, bada bing, right? At idle, you still get at least 20% inert gases, and that's more than enough to cool the combustion and reduce those nitrogen oxides as designed, instead of 50-50. Okay, so I'm not sure how well this is going to work out, but we'll try it, right? You can see where it's got to go down there. You can see it's off the studs like that. I find the easiest way is to get underneath, hold it with your fingertips. Now it's really hard not having the extra hand and you can't see what's going on, but I'm manoeuvring it around to pull it against the face of the EGR cooler, kind of like where so there's a gasket stuck on the head. You just leave that there, no extra gaskets required. This is a quality flat piece of stainless steel, and I'm struggling a bit because I need the other hand to wiggle this EGR cooler, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I need to sort of wiggle and pull that outwards to give myself the clearance I need. Sometimes it happens really easy, sometimes it's a bit of a fiddle. I'm at the point where I just about need to put this phone down. Okay, we've got it in place now, right? So what we've done, you probably can't see anything, I'm trying for you, but okay, there you've got some fingertips down there, right? See that, there you go. Right. What you can see there actually, I think. Let me just have a look and see what's going on myself with my own eyes, not the camera. Yep, the gasket's moved out of place, that's what I thought. Okay, so what normally happens is the gasket stays stuck against the head, the plate goes over the top, and then that stainless steel part of the EGR cooler. But in this case, the plate snuck under the gasket, So you've got the gasket against the EGR cooler, then the plate, and no gasket against the head. So you either want to change the order of that back around, because that's what works. That's what we've seen on vehicles done before. I'm not 100% sure that the gasket on this side and not on the inside is ideal. So certainly it's been proven that you don't need a gasket both sides. Normally leave it against the head. And that's what we're going to do, I think. We're just going to rearrange the order. I'm going to put the camera down. It's too hard to hold the camera and do this. That's why this has happened in the first place. We'll get it in place and then we'll show you what's going on. Bada boom, bada bing. So in the end, we replace that gasket because usually they say stay stuck against the head. Now, the fact that it came away from the head, then you could see all the flaking and whatever, and you know, the damage to the gasket, and there's a chance that it might leak, sort of thing. So it was time to replace that along with this other dodgy one. So another one to the list. And these are part of all the EGR gaskets that do come with the injector kit if you ask for the full EGR gasket kit. And of course you can get the inlet manifold and the other gaskets related to taking the inlet manifold off also. Okay, so just going to try and show you with it all sitting in place. Again, not sure how it's going to work out, but hope you can see that. You can see the gasket behind, and the plate, and then the EGR cooler, which I'm just, you know, we'll just slip gently over the studs to put it back on anyway. But you know, not that I'm trying to get it on or anything, because I'm sort of one-handed here with the camera, but you know, if you were to just move it into position somehow, I thought it was just going to pop on. Anyway, like that, bada boom, bada bing. Okay, so that's where it's at. Anyway, we're going to take that back out. The client's going to come and have a look and decide whether he wants to put it in or not. He can do it. We don't do EGR cleans, so of course we don't install these plates either. Used to do EGR cleans, sick and tired of it. This one's just for the video, guys. Maximum information for you guys. Okie dokie. So whether you put a plate in or not, that's up to you. Whether you want to leave the gasket against the head and put the other one supplied if you buy an injector kit over the top of it, that's up to you. Whether you want to take it off and replace it, that's up to you. I can tell you leaving it stuck against the head, putting the plate in and the cooler over the top works. I've seen it hundreds of times. Heaps of vehicles come in, thousands of people have got this plate, right? And we do a fair bit of diagnostics. That's what we do mainly, checking vehicles for people. And obviously fuel system specialist rectification type work. So you need to get your nuts back on, and that's what we're doing now. We've just passed that top nut into position to the start of that EGR cooler there, right? So it's still all just loose at the moment. So the first nut's on. We'll grab the other one, see if we can get lucky and get that one up in this, up onto its position without dropping it like we did with that one. Yeah, a little bit fiddly really, a bit risky. Helps if you can see where you got to go for a start, but I think that's in position, so we're going to hold that square and keep the pressure on and turn it, and I think it's in the right spot. Yeah, it's getting tight, so that's good. So we've got the two nuts started that retain the EGR cooler. Just to sit it in place, like I said, do not forget this bolt that bolts the EGR cooler to the manifold. It's a bit of a pain because, why is it a pain? It's a pain because the dipstick's in the way. So we just want to get that started, which is not really working out too well so far because that dipstick. Damn Hiluxes. Yeah, the Prado dipstick's on the other side. Okay, so that's in, but we're just going to leave it out a couple of turns because we need to be able to move this around a bit to get those bolts started. And don't mess around with it too much like what I did. I just wanted to show you. Alright, now same deal with these. You can put a little bit of grease on them if you like, or whatever you want to put on there. we're just going to put a really small amount of grease. Where's that rag? And just gently lift this up. And of course we've got the bolt, that's the one with the washer on it, right? Don't drop these, don't lose them either. You know, don't drop them, don't lose them. Don't over tighten them either. They should just go in fairly easy by hand, because remember, everything's loose still. We don't tighten anything up, so we're not tighten anything of this up until, so it's kind of like a wobble it back and forth a bit while you're turning the bolt to keep the resistance of this unit not pressing against the bolt. You know, just move it, tweak it to where it, to what works. It's pretty close, it's about 1 millimeter from the top, so I'm just going to leave it at that and grab our other bolt, which is up on the top of the tray at this side. A little bit of grease again. A little bit of a rag to wipe off the excess. G'day, how you going? Up on the top shelf. Okay, no worries. Okay, thanks. Bye. Yeah, we get the odd phone call. Just thought we'd just roll the punches and sort it out. So that one's sorted. Upside down bolt going into the EGR valve, right? Same deal again. I want to get it started. If it doesn't work, grab the EGR cooler and give it a wiggle, like that. Now it's started, and it's going in by hand, nice and easy. Why? Because all our other bolts are still loose. We've got grease on the threads. You can do things the hard way, or you can do them the easy way. I like to try and show you the easy way. Maybe I'll get it wrong. There's some easy ways to do other things, but so yes, we are busy doing a video. Make it quick. Now I'm going to nip this up a little bit, because that's going to bring the EGR cooler into where it's going to want to sit. We don't want to tighten the others up and then have this force against where they're located. So now that we've got them all started, I prefer, but I don't want to go full tight on that either, right? So just go, it wasn't quite all the way, but I want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I don't know if you think I'm too fussy or not, but the other thing you've got to take into account is these bolts want to pull this up to the EGR. It's just about all the way up. It's a mil or two, but if that's too tight, that will have a resistance. So I'd rather we've pulled that into that alignment. Now it's going to get pulled up, and that can slide. This is kind of like, it's got a slot elongated for adjustment, if you know what I mean. Another phone call. So we'll leave that one. We get a lot of phone calls sometimes. We had a bit of a good run, and we've got to nip those up. See what I mean? It was nearly there, but it wasn't all the way. Now, I'm not saying I'm done with that either. I'm going to go a little bit tighter, but I just want to get this one. Actually, I'll go by hand first, because it's probably, it seems like it's just about there. This is that one where, you know, you've got the angle thing going on. And you've got this, on the Hilux, you've got this to... See what I mean? So there's quite a lot of angle going on. So we'll get the extra finger under there and just try and keep it. Just do the shorter strokes, which are a bit of a pain, but you get that. On the Prado, you can get a bit more swing there. Okay, so that's nice. We'll just double check this side here. Give it a little bit more. That's beautiful. Then we'll go tight on the one we're never going to forget. Okay, nice and firm, not going anywhere. And then kind of important with these ones not to over tighten as well. I think they're meant to be, like I said, 13 Newton meters. I do it all by hand. Is that shocking you? Never had an issue, right? You can, with a quarter drive, you can give them a fair bit of curry without breaking them, but I have had calls from people breaking them, so use caution or a torque wrench, okay? This is just a little quarter drive with a long extension, so it looks like I'm putting quite a bit of force on them sometimes, but not necessarily. Okay, so I'm happy with those. They're 13 Newton meters. Okay, so the whole EGR cooler's tight, right? So double check your work. Now once you've done those up, you can plug that common rail plug back on. So let's get to that one. Because if you forget that, it'll get hidden down in there. Listen for the click. Right, click, bada boom. So we've got our 3 bolts back here done up. We've got our bolt here done up. We've got to our 3 nuts. We've got our upside down bolts. We've got our mounting bolt, those 2 nuts. So that's your EGR clean. And if you put your plate in or not, whatever. So we're just going to continue putting it back together. We'll roll the video, but a lot of people will figure it out from here, but I suppose there's always more information and tips. So sit tight and let's see what other information we might have while we get this back together. What we're going to do next. Right, I think it's time to cut that zip tie. Got to make order of business. Let's keep those people that are still watching. They're the ones that are getting their education, you know what I mean? So cut that zip tie. We could recycle it. We could get the little. Let's just do that just for. Let's see how long it takes to release the zip tie. I'm not too fussed about zip ties, but you know. It's one of those bigger ones. Let's go like that, I reckon. And that should just push through there. For that we just saved a zip tie. Right guys? So, not that hard to do just about anything. So what we're going to do now is put these 2 bolts back in that mount that pipe, which this is one of them. So the way, I've mentioned in other videos, but I'm not sure if you've seen them. You should go and see them. The way I sort bolts out, so on like an injector job, EGR job, whatever, like I said, you could probably throw them all in a bucket, mix them up and I'll sort it out. But the ones that come off first go the furthest in to the center, you know, on that, we'll call it the tray, the nut and bolt tray at the bottom of the windscreen. And I'll work my way up to the sides. So then when you're reassembling, you work your way from the sides towards the center, you know? Makes sense, doesn't it? So there's one bolt that goes in the top there as well. Just trying to get that one started without, it's probably not what I'd normally do. What I'd normally do is have a socket and extension there straight away and it helps you hold the bolt straight. But I don't want to confuse that with getting a bolt started with sockets and extensions and tools. You know, you don't want to do that either generally, sometimes, but generally you don't. Okay, so we'll get the ratchet. We'll do the top one. We'll just grab whatever's closest. Where's that 12 mil? Just grab that one, that'll do. Might not be the right choice of tools, but trying to get onto it without too much delay. Alright, so that's good. Get rid of the extension. Get into this fiddly one behind. It is a bit fiddly, believe it or not. Alright, one click or 2 clicks at a time. Doesn't need to be stupidly tight, but that's good, right? So that's not going anywhere. Now that we've got that tight up to there, we can quickly grab our wiring loom back out where we carefully tucked it away. And of course, you clip clips back in. Just work your way from one end along. 1, 2 clips, and then injectors. So it only took a few extra minutes to get that out the way. Some people will go, "Ah, you don't need to do that." Well, it's not about need to, just sometimes, like we said earlier in the video, more is less and less is more. For those 2 bolts. So while we're at it, we might as well just go around and plug everything in around this side as well. Obviously just work your way through. Coolant temperature sensor down the bottom. Clip. Compressor plug. Clip. Mass sensor. Clip. If someone hasn't already previously butchered it, right? Just make sure that's all secure. We've got to tighten up those bolts now. Oops. Am I noisy? Sorry about that. Right, so these again, what do they need to be, 5 or 8 Newton meters, something like that. Hook it up. Right, just as long as everything's secured, no damage there, everything's good. Beautiful. Beautiful. What we'll do now is, we're going to move pretty quickly. Get this throttle body back in place. Alright, so this job started fairly early this morning, first up, and it's nearly lunchtime, just to give you an idea of timeline. You know, getting it all off, cleaning everything up properly, you know, preparing gaskets and cleaning and vacuuming and all that crap, and cleaning up all the mess that the mess makes, keeping it all contained. So I'd estimate you need to allow about 4 hours. Some people are going, "Oh, I can do it quicker than that." That's alright, no problem. I can do it quicker too. I'll leave a big mess everywhere and do half a job, but and forget things and have to, you know, have cars come back and whatever. So I'm just doing this to make it quick for you. You use your proper hand tools and torque wrench. Is that a rattle gun, someone says? It's an impact driver. I've been using it for a while. And I know exactly what the torque settings, you know, what my finger's doing with it. My old Ingersoll Rand rattle gun, I used to be able to do just short of the 113 Newton meters on the wheel nuts. And then, you know, just finish it off. They'd go a short turn, whatever anyway. So you don't rattle it hard, it's just to get it most of the way and speed things up a bit. Look, we're getting pretty close to nearly done. So what we need now is plug that. See that plug there? Don't forget that. So bonus if you just watch, because you don't see it from here, people forget that quite often. We're just going to stick that wiring there, loom there for now. We have this side bracket works to go back on, which is what we'll do next. So we'll just get the top bolt going first. So top bolt at the side there. Have I got the camera in the right spot? Because I went over there. God, you can't even see what I'm doing, can you? Sorry about that. How much have I done without you? That was terrible of me. Okay, so we put the throttle body back on. These 2 nuts and the bolts at the bottom, we put this plug on. This is the plug that everybody forgets, right? Well, not everybody, but you know, we say everybody forgets, but I think I might have forgotten it once or twice myself, so you know, it's not a big deal. It just means you can get your fingers in there around the intercooler to plug it in without pulling the intercooler off. I have done it that way, so definitely I've forgotten at least once. But I remember the first time I forgot that plug, and I took the intercooler off to replug in. As soon as, you start, something's not right, you're looking at your scan tool, oh no, oh no, oh, and straight away you know what you forgot. So yeah. The main thing you can't forget is the really important things that the scan tool's not going to tell you. It's okay to forget a plug or here or there towards the end, but you don't want to be forgetting to torque down your injectors and that. So those are the things you triple check. We've basically got a checklist for that. So okay, so those 3 bolts on that side bracket mounting the VSV is on. Now we can put that top plug on, the brown plug on. You can clip that clip into there, you can plug that plug onto there. You can put the top vacuum line that goes on the left, the one with the filters on the left, and the short one's on the right. And then down the bottom, your yellow, remember your yellow goes at the top. It's got marks here, if your marks are worn off, it's yellow at the top, pink at the bottom. Alright. Right, now we can set our fuel filter back in position because we'd move that out the way. You see what's going on there? Borderline, here we go, we'll just back it off a little bit. Sorry about that little bit before. That was my unprofessional camera works, and this is just how it is kind of. Look, I've paused and edited in between, cleaning and stuff like that. So those 2 plugs done up again. We'll just give it a pump anyway because we can. Literally, the only thing we've got to put back on is almost the only thing we've got to put back on is the intercooler. Let's get this vacuum line and map filter. This is the map filter or fuel filter or whatever. There's lots of different names for it. I don't give a stuff really what you want to call it, but that's the filter. I call it a map filter because it's in the manifold absolute pressure vacuum line that goes to the manifold absolute pressure sensor. So it would make sense to call it a map filter. So that's what I call it. That's my name. That slots in black to the top to the left. Okay, black to the top to the left. There's a little slot where it locks in. If it's not black and grey, you've got the wrong one. The white ones are for the early 05, 06 Hiluxes. That's a white one, it's different EGR system. Right, this is going to go on the sensor on the intercooler. That's all fitted in place, right? Everything, except for what I've forgotten, is back together except putting the intercooler on, right? You can just have a bit of a look around, go around the other side. The key is don't rush stuff because that's where you're going to miss something, right? Check all your plugs. Yep, we did all that. Yep. We nipped that up. I don't know if you missed that on the video. We nipped those up. I think between the disassembly and all the information and the putting back together, you've pretty well got it sorted. This is all nice and clean now, obviously. So that's good. We're ready to put the intercooler back on. So, what are we going to do? I think we're going to put the intercooler back on. I'll show you the easiest way to do that too. So we need to remove this, carefully remove this rag out of the way that we had covering the turbo so nothing was going to fall in or out of there. Just grab the intercooler. Oh, we're talking about it. Some people asked about intercoolers. Of course, bigger intercoolers will work and help with a bit more power and responsiveness, only to the peak of the tune of the vehicle. But the problem is when you get a lot of hot air, you can be losing performance definitely on any turbocharged engine. So a bigger intercooler does help, but it won't affect. It's going to help. It's not going to. It's not like a tune or a remap where you've got more power and that, so it's not going to affect the longevity of the vehicle, if you know what I mean. So you slip that side in and then you just slip this side in. Keep it at a height that you don't hit your washers. Take your time and then everything will fall in place. Like I said, I may make it look easier for some people. Right, so be aware of that. I've done a few. Right, now that vacuum line we're talking about, map sensor, right? So we're going to put that on. Put the clip back in where it's meant to be as well. We're going to put the plug on. We're going to put this clip in. We're going to put this plug on. Right, so all that side's more or less done other than tightening a few things down. Back over to this side. Right, make sure you get them started. I just like to give it a hit and a wobble to make sure it's down where it goes onto the duct at the turbo. Now I'm going to grab that rattle gun. Rattle gun. Give me that rattle gun. That's not a rattle gun. Is that a rattle gun? No, it was an impact driver. I think it does maximum 40 Newton meters, but I don't hold the trigger flat out anyway. I'm light on the trigger. That's probably about, I don't know, 8 Newton meters. Well, as I said, You want to have a look how old it is? I know it's pretty old and knocked around. Been using this one, I don't know, 10 years or something. So I had the one before was a blue one. So I was on the Ryobi Plus 1 gear. Went back when they were blue. So, mate, you know, if you think you're cool, you've got this stuff. Well, mate, I got it before you. Whatever. It was actually highly recommended to me by someone. He was using Makita gear, and he's probably watching this video eventually. He was using Makita, and I think it was his uncle that got it, or I don't know if he recommended it to his uncle. Told his uncle, oh mate, get the Ryobi. Probably told him to get the Ryobi because he thought it was crap, and so that he could have better tools than his uncle, I don't know. I'm sort of having a bit of a joke around here. Works really well for me because I can feel what's going on and see what's going on. So anyway, he probably said, hey, get the Ryobi. That way he knew he was going to have the superior tools, but I don't know if it worked out for him because I remember him telling me, mate, my uncle's got this Ryobi and it's awesome, you know. So, and I said, really? Because I've had bad experiences with Ryobi stuff. But I've got to say, I had my doubts and concerns, and I'm super duper happy with all the Ryobi Plus 1 stuff. Alright, so hopefully it stays that way. Never had an issue. Well, I shouldn't say never, I did have an issue. Had an issue with a drill when I dropped it off the roof when I was building the pergola. That was an issue when the drill got bent, but actually it still worked. It bent the handle section and it wouldn't work in reverse, so it was forwards only, and a little bit uncomfortable at the handle because it's got a big crease in it. But since then, it was better value to buy a whole kit. I don't know, what did I buy? A drill and something else, I don't know, but it was in a kit, so I've got an extra drill now anyway. I rarely use drills anyway, we're not like an engineering workshop here, so that impact driver, that gets pumped. It does all sorts of stuff, you know, around the house and in the workshop. It's my go-to, but just be aware, don't pull the trigger hard, don't think that I'm doing that. Same as like what you call your rattle gun, or your impact wrench. So you've got an impact drive, that's an impact driver. Then you've got an impact wrench, which is a lot more powerful, usually your 1/2 inch drive. So I've just done that clamp up on the top of that boot there. So this vehicle is almost completely back together, right? Do your checks. We did up that side. We did up the 4 bolts. All the plugs and wires are on. We've nipped those up nicely. Don't over tighten them, you'll cut the rubber. Don't leave them loose, pressure will, you know, it'll leak. So they've got to be just right. It's not the end of the world though if you don't get it quite right, because you can always tighten them up later. If you over tighten them and you wreck it or something, I think these are not cheap. They're probably, I think they're close to $100. Might be 60, 40 or $80, somewhere up there anyway. All we've got to go is making it a D4D once again. This vehicle was reasonably clean, but we didn't clean it, or we have not cleaned any part other than the EGR valve in this job, right? So obviously that sits there like so. And like always, same deal with these. You might be back to, I don't know if it's 5 or 8 Newton meters again for these. It's just going into alloy. So you just want to be careful how you nip those up as well. And if you dare me, I will use the impact driver. If you dare me. Did you dare me? In the comments, just go, I dared you. I watched the whole video and I dared you. Because it's good, it'd be good to know who's watching. Because when I know who's watching the whole lot to the end, they're the proper supporters, they're the people that are educated, they're the people that aren't going to have questions and they're not going to have problems because they're following the right information. And when they ask a question, they're more likely to get an answer. You see that? You know, I'm not. It's still a hammering effect, but you know, I'm not going to pull the trigger hard. Right? I know exactly where that's at. Right? I'll grab the ratchet for you in a minute. I don't know if it's going to need any more. I think I've got it to around about the right area. Now, there's a big difference. Lightly, light, and you can build it up, right? You know, we're not going full. We're just going light like that. Very light. Don't let your finger slip. Don't do what I do. Don't do that, okay? Just don't do that. And do as I say, not as I do, right? Quarter drive, it's just like, yeah, you know, I could get a little bit more. You know, you can just see how precise I understand the impact driver or the impact wrench, either of those tools. right? So don't think when you see a video that, oh, you know, he's hammered it. Oh, was that an impact driver? My apprentice is no better. Someone wrote a comment like that. Come on, please. You know, your apprentice is no better. Maybe you should start a YouTube channel and show us how it's done. All right, guys. I don't know what else I can tell you now. It's looking good to me. Is it looking good to you? Bada boom, bada bing. You reckon the engine's going to start? Or maybe not. Anyway, we'll get to that. It's lunchtime now. Let me see, what time is it? Bada boom, bada bing. Time to get organised for lunch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll get this all joined up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. There's heaps more videos. There's hundreds there. This is the important thing, right? You've watched this video and you think you know it all. That's grouse, you know a lot. But there's a whole heap more old information there, and this is what you've got to understand from my perspective. I can redo it all again for you, but then another guy that's watched everything, he's going to be on this again. We've done this, you know, so we're going to try not to redo stuff. So if you don't go back from the oldest videos and work your way through and have a giggle and go, oh yeah, the first video, and you know, slowly, hopefully it gets better. I don't know if it's going to get much better than this, but slowly it gets better. That's where you're going to get your information, and we're going to have plenty more coming. We're going to be always on the increase with more information and hopefully getting it out better to you. And like I said, we've got the VIP group there, which has got a lot of other videos both on YouTube and on direct on the VIP group that are locked down at the moment. It's a VIP thing. We've got a few reasons for keeping it like that. If you want to see all those videos, all you've got to do, you know, the three main parts we sell you are the injector kit, which is, you know, the complete thing, you know, over 20 different components in there. The front, the water pump timing belt kit, if you're interested in that. And the Prado front wheel bearings already pressed together, ready to go, easy bolt on for DIY. Not worth trying to press those apart. Any other little bits and pieces, we'll just include them in those kits for free. We don't really do, you know, it's not a full parts business, if you know what I mean. We're not here, otherwise I wouldn't be here doing this. I'd just have a website and just sell heaps of parts, right? These are the parts that people are buying because it's good to get those kits complete all from one place, because you can't buy the bearings for the tensioner from Toyota, right? There's things you can't buy at Toyota dealers. You can't buy the parts at Toyota dealers at the right price, if you know what I mean. All of them. So that's why our kits are awesome value for money, comprehensive backup service and videos on installation. Once again, thanks for watching. Subscribe and do everyone else a favor and share it. Share the link to a Prado group, a Toyota group, whatever, wherever, and help out your mates. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See ya.